Dear children, let's now discuss few 3-mark questions from the topic transportation. Here we go, our first question. Write the 3 types of blood vessels. Give one important features of each. We know we have 3 types of blood vessels. They are arteries, veins and the capillaries. Arteries, they always carries blood away from the heart. They carries the pure blood, right? They does not have valves in it, but they have a thicker wall in order to accommodate the pressure generated during pumping. Whereas the vein, they are having valves, but they have lesser thickness for the wall. They always carries the impure blood, always carries the blood to the heart. But the capillaries, they are the smallest or the minute blood vessels. They are in fact formed from the arteries and later they rejoin to form vein. They can carry both the pure and the impure bloods. In fact, the capillaries are the site of exchange of the materials which is passed on through the blood. Moving to the next question, what is transpiration? List its 2 functions. Transpiration, it is the movement of the expulsion of excess water in the form of water vapor through the stomata or through the lenticels of the stem. And what's its advantages? First one, it helps in the ascent of sap. It helps in the transport of sap in the trees or in the plants. The same way, it also helps in maintaining a proper temperature for the plant. It gives a cooling sensation for the plant. Now moving to the next question, it has 2 sub-questions. First sub-question, what is translocation? Why it is essential for the plant? Question B, where do substances in plant reach as a result of translocation? The first question, what is translocation? Translocation is the same as that of the movement of food through the phloem. Translocation is the process by which the prepared food material, that's a sucrose, the dissolved form of sucrose is being transported to different parts of the plant body, depends upon the plant's need. The next question, where do the substances in the plant reaches as a result of translocation? They are asking who actually needs this dissolved form of food. In fact, every organ of the plant body requires this dissolved food or the food, especially those of the developing parts of the plant like the shoot bud, root bud, then the meristematic tissues. Next question, it also has 2 sub-questions. First sub-question, write 2 water conducting tissues present in the plant. How does the water enters continuously in the root system? Next question, explain why plants have low energy need as compared to animal. So let's see the first question. Write 2 conducting tissues in the plant. The 2 conducting tissues or the vascular bundles in the plants are xylem and phloem. Xylem carries the sap while phloem they carries the food, the dissolved form of food to different parts of the plant body. And we learned how the water molecules is being pumped from the root to the different parts of the plant body. For that, the ions present in the soil are actively pumped into the root cells. As a result of this, there occurs a fluctuation gradient and the water that present in the soil will be pushed into the root cells, thereby creating higher pressure in the root cells, and the water now will be elevated up by the process of osmosis, thereby creating a continuous column of water. This process is also known as the ascent of sap. Now they are asking why plants have low energy need. We know the plants are anchored to soil, they are immobile, whereas animals are always in locomotion. For the locomotion, for the muscle movement, great deal of energies are required. As the plants are not moving, they require very lesser amount of energy. Also, plants have greater proportion of dead cells than the animals. So dead cells, they does not require any energy or nor the nutrition. So in these 2 aspects, we can say plants requires very lesser amount of energy. Moving to the next question, mention the 3 kinds of cells present in the blood. Write 1 functions of each. The 3 types of blood cells present in our blood are RBC, WBC and the platelets. Together we call them as formed elements or the blood corpuscles. RBCs are in fact red in color, all due to the presence of a specialized protein in it called hemoglobin. So in fact RBC's function is to carry oxygen to different parts of your body. WBC, white blood corpuscles, its function is to produce antibodies against the infection. So WBC's function is to fight against the infection. It gives us immunity. Whereas the platelets, also known as the thrombocytes, its function is to help in the blood clotting, thus preventing the loss of blood. Moving to the next question, what do the following transports? First one xylem, second is the phloem, third is the pulmonary vein, fourth is the venacava, and we have the pulmonary artery and the aorta. We know xylem, they carry sap, is a mixture of the water and the solute. Phloem, of course, which carries the dissolved food materials, the prepared food materials in the dissolved form to different parts of the plant body. Next, we have the pulmonary vein, which carries the pure blood from the lungs to the left atrium. Next is the venacava, which is the largest vein which collects the impure blood, the blood which is mixed with the carbon dioxide, that's the impure blood from your tissues to the heart. Next is the pulmonary artery, which carries the impure blood from your heart, from your right ventricle to the lungs for purification, for filling the oxygen. Next is the aorta, which is the largest artery which carries pure blood from your left ventricle to different parts of your body. Moving to the next question. First sub question, what happens to the heart when the muscle works harder? When the muscles are working harder, that means our muscles requires more amount of energy. So the blood will be pumping more into our muscles. That means the heart will be functioning more and more harder. Question B, which body system is directly affected when a person has a heart diseases? Of course, no doubt our circulatory system. Question C, which cell increases in number during infection? We know during infection, we have one blood corpuscles which helps in fighting against infection. If our body finds that we are encountering with numerous infections, our WBC will increase in number. So during the time of infection, WBC will increase in number and they will try to fight against those antigens or infections. Moving to the next question, state the reason for the following. In human heart, the walls of the ventricle are thicker than the arteries or the atrium. We know ventricle is the chamber which is involved in pumping of the blood. So since in order to accommodate the pressure generated during pumping, ventricles will have thicker wall when compared to that of the atria. Atria's function is only to receive the blood, no pumping in atrium. Only the ventricle is the chamber involved in pumping. So pumping, so in order to accommodate the pressure generated during pumping, ventricle is having thicker wall. Next question, in green plants during the day, carbon dioxide is generated in respiration is not released out. During the daytime, the carbon dioxide generated is not released out because it is consumed by the plant itself for the process of photosynthesis, because CO2 is the raw material for making food for the plant. Moving to the next question, explain the mechanism of transport of water and minerals in the plant. Transport of water and minerals or the transport of sap is done by our xylem vessels. The xylem vessels and the tracheids, they forms a continuous column of channels all along through the stem, root and the leaf. So wherever the organs are found for the plant, these xylem vessels and tracheids, they forms a continuous column just like a giant straw. So the xylem vessels or the root which is connected to the soil, they first absorb some ions. So as the ions are getting filled in the root cells, it creates a concentration gradient so that the water by a process of osmosis moves from the soil to the and fills up the space inside the root cells. As more and more water passes in to the root cells, it creates a higher pressure, thereby pushing the water from bottom to the top of the plant. Thereby the water and the ions are translocated or transported to different parts of the plant body. So, we moving to the next question. Give reason for the following. First one, blood goes only once through the heart in fishes. We know in fishes they are having only two chambered heart, one atrium and the one ventricle. Also they have the gills as their respiratory organ. So as the fishes they intake dissolved oxygen, it is sent to gills, and from the gills the pure oxygen will be diffused into the blood, forming pure blood, and this pure blood will be sent to different parts of the body, and the impure blood from the tissues will be sent back into the heart. So inside the heart blood flows only in one form, or there is only one circulation happens through the heart, that is the impure form of blood, and hence we call it as a single circulation. Next question, plants have only low energy need. Plants are anchored to the soil. They are never locomoting. Like when you compare them with we animals are always in constant locomotion. For their muscular movement, we requires plenty of energy. So once the plant is anchored to the soil, they require very lesser amount of energy for their metabolism. And also there are great proportion of dead cells in the plant. Compared to animals have larger number of live cells. So taking these two aspects into consideration, we can say that plants requires very lesser amount of energy. Moving to the next question, what happens if peristaltic movement do not occur all along the esophagus? We know esophagus is the food pipe. It is the pipe which connects the buccal cavity to the stomach. If the food is not moving through the esophagus, then the further digestion will not occur. We already learned that the food moving through the esophagus is not governing the principle of gravity. It is due to the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the esophageal muscle wall makes the food moving inside the esophagus. So if there is no peristaltic movement happening inside the esophagus, the food won't be reaching the stomach and the further digestion will not be taking place. Next question, there is no platelets in the body. They are asking what happens if there is no platelets in our body. If there is no platelets, then there won't be no agent to prevent bleeding. So once happens a cut, the blood will move out profusely. So to stop further bleeding, we must have the platelets. If no platelets, no blood clotting. Our next question, list in tabular form 3 differences between the arteries and the veins. Arteries and veins differences they are asking. We know arteries are the blood vessel which carries pure blood. There is an exception. Pulmonary artery carries the impure blood, whereas vein they carries impure blood, exception pulmonary vein they carries the pure blood. Arteries have a thicker wall, while veins has very thinner wall. Why arteries have a thicker wall? In order to accommodate the pressure generated during the pumping, they have the thicker wall. We know arteries have no valve while veins have valve. Arteries always carries blood away from the heart to the tissues or away from the heart, while vein always carries blood to the heart. Blood moves under high pressure inside the arteries, while blood moves rather lesser pressure inside the valve wall, whereas the blood moves under less pressure inside the vein. The largest arteries are the aorta, while the largest vein we call it as a vena cava.